Hello, my name is Marilyn Muse. I'm recording some documentation about my goals to learn the language under my circumstances here. I know I'm smart. I have met and known someone since February of this year, and through this year I've been through some challenges emotionally and otherwise that have had situations present a resolution to them. Objectively, they follow their own patterns and cycles of a natural resolution or a resolve. However, emotionally and to a physical standpoint about some choices or things of a physical matter or meaning, without having to have an over explanation, have at utmost been too much for me, and then taken advantage of by this special person whom I've known through this year. These points are something I need to mention because I'm an artist also. I'm going to work on several facets of this project that I'm doing myself. Otherwise, for no return or gains of to mention or whatnot, other than to hope that this person who claims to have had a romantic interest in me decide to follow that instead of playing emotionally with ideas of fidelity, because I have given them a more mature stance on an entrance to a long-term relationship because of my interests and my current pursuits and my art-centered artistic endeavors and ongoing things that I know he and I get along with. Without too much of a lament, I have zero tolerance for things of so much of an abusive nature that it comes up naturally or second-handedly. And this also includes the self-righteous excuses of behavioral malfunctions or malfeats, when certain things of common sense ought to be worked around or worked in conjunction with something that does not come from a derivative of a hypocrisy that you're implementing in things that are without its bias to your reasons. Meaning, if you do something for no reason and you contradict yourself, you ought to be having repercussions of a natural guide-by standpoint, and thusly some emotional, intellectual value to gauge why it is that what you're doing is being experienced. In layman's terms of words, I'd really like to not have my time wasted. So today is the first day of my studies, and this comes about from a scenario which I'll also share some speaking on, because this year, after having met this person, has caused a detriment to things, whether we talk about it or not. And the perhaps only resolution is that in the scenario, once I'd given my more forthcoming concern and altruism, that I'm looking for the seriousness of a relationship that does not encourage secondhand dating or multiple partners, and also that I'm interested in this person since they had flirted with me first and did hear me when I'd expressed that I'm not looking for a fling, neither am I that type of person. And if we're to continue communicating on the way that it was then turned into after we'd initially met, from when it was casual or friendship oriented, then express that they're attracted to me too. Like, oh cool, I can handle that. I'd like to have that. I handled with depression, depressed this year, that I'm very much interested in them, and I kept it at that because I made the first move, or because I said that like I did, they decided to go date someone else in the meantime, and I feel entirely devalued because of this. So then secondary benefactors to a concern of things that have been minded over to me, that it's no concern of mine, but it's more of from the lines of a maturity value or a temper tantrum, or things of, maybe go out for a beer with me and I'll leave you with some in your fridge, types of things. So it's of a difficulty for me to put this more plainly than it is so blatantly. I'm an introvert. I'm a homebody person and a loner. However, in a social scene or scenario, I love to go out and about every now and again. And it's to my beliefs that there's nothing incompatible about us. Tone and diction tend to change depending on circumstances and scenarios. Therefore, I'd accepted his invitation to go to his place on his birthday, which is shortly after mine. He had openly coupled with a former partner of his who is otherwise engaged with someone else and is with others. So in all their hunky-dory ways, that whatever they're doing, have done, or are going to do, it has been deceitful, and I'm not speaking outside of the normal way that I tend to think. I'm not autistic, neither do I have any problems in social scenarios. I have to contest that this has been absurd or a waste of my time, but I don't see things like that. So it's more like how it is that I'm unsatisfied with this experience. They're on their birthday. They then openly paraded with this person who was of less towards a public interest of expressing that it's a mutual hook-up or connection or intimacy. However, in his direct actions, it undermined how he and I have previously been together and how we had exchanged the same ideas of how he'd put it was, well, I don't want to break up with you or anything. So then I'd noticed that because of our lack of conversations and the way things had gone, without a more normal gesture of conversation, because I'm depressed and because I'm going through some challenges or some things. My mother passed away this year. My father died last year. They both passed of cancer. My mom was my best friend. I was entirely disrespected by him amidst a family photo also. And in a matter of self-reliance, these are details that do validate the bearing to why a justification of my premise here of learning this language and making efforts like I am is being documented by me and putting here on Facebook, on YouTube, and within a menial derangement of what it is to encapsulate something with a timing for the stance of the measure of why it is a procurement of a value that should be given utmost respect to, including just in commons and in layman passing, and then in normalcy of communicative reliability. I'm going to make a 5-day challenge of learning the Lingit language, and I'm not someone who is most typically outwardly spoken or forwardly spoken without being directly charismatic in any social scenario. So exuding forward with a more narrative presence during this objective that I'm taking seriously within the emotions and choices in my life, I'd very much like to, in future videos here, give presentations of portions of a project which I'd eventually like to donate somewhere with efficacy towards its valuable means, towards its measure. Meaning, for what it's worth, so have you be it, to have that from me because I'm giving it to you, and not because I'm trying to have you take something from me or trying to exchange something that's relayed or something in a communication that's an endeavor for you to have some escapism bullshit, pardon my words, that causes me more explicit, prolonged concerns and things I don't need nor want, for you to have a further validated excuse as to why you're not checking yourself up to what basic conversation is when you're dealing in slang with people you've known longer. I don't appreciate it. I'm not okay with that, and I'm more interested in marriage to this person who is of the Tlingit tribe. And blah blah blah. I also I don't like being too personal with things publicly, and it shows in my reserved way of communicating. So as also a goal for my studies that does occupy my time, I'd like it to be noted that my intellectualism is something that's more attractive, like he'd first said, instead of trying to ignore that I can also just kick back with some beer whenever, and it's not a reason to go have an excuse to get away from me for a while. Neither am I trying to barrage someone with my presence, but the way I've been objectively demeaned is not to be an effort, nor is it to be a pattern in the way I'm doing things myself in my life. And I have seen too much harmony with how it's an excuse from them because of the way I'd introduced my normal modes of speaking, because I'm a loner. So as these challenges of an introvert persist, I attended to my friend's birthday day when he'd had his ex and a mutual friend of theirs and his over also. They had then left after I showed up. His don't talk to me attitude started like immediately while they were there and while I was present without a means of gesture to continue a normal conversation because of the dishonesty or disaccommodations, like something against what I'd initially expressed and what we had bonded on, whether it's a fad or whatever. It's not a trend. It's offensive, and there's a lot better ways to be good at being bothersome than what there is to outright be something of this way that I am so opposed to. They had then danced and sang to songs on their phone, on their playlist of their more natal language or their tribal language music, which I have also grown up on in a large segment of my family and extended family, for what it's worth. And I'll expand on that in some other video. But in the next 5 days, I will post the story, tense, and poetry that I have already written, because I am not planning on sharing these videos to these people whom I'm speaking about directly without making an attempt to a grander recognition and welcoming of what I'm trying to do with and for and because of this person whom I'm romantically interested in, who has fallen into patterns that are derogatory social scars from previous volunteer opportunities that I've had to live through with someone. And because I've experienced these things and patterns and psychological outlets and field time in these studies, I have a broad insight of what it is that defines why my opinion is worth more than a denial in a defense here or a debate. And when the agree to disagree common resolve or resolution really just doesn't fit in because it's a cheap gesture or more effort needs to be given, that's where a lot of my efforts show my my contemplation of things that I like to speak about and haven't been given a voice to yet. So, also because I'm a writer, I'm an artist, I'm a musician, I don't like being scripted. I'm trying to keep this entire thing, whatever this compilation will end up as as not so tedious as it is to be as awkward as I am at something naturally a romantic endeavor, that I'd like to have a relationship valid to deliver prenuptials with an agreement to decide around, because of what some of my already expressed wants that were deemed mutual before it was thought about that I'm serious about this. Is, oh, we'll put that wildly into perspective. It's like what's normal here for his birthday. I spent a couple of my paychecks anyways and told him I want to send him to college. And then I want to buy him a horse, since he's such an enthusiast, whether I take care of it or not, since it's one of those years for me. However, my contingency is that he has no sexual relations with other people or with others of nearer concern to things that generosity gives a menial inlet for other creative endeavors and expression, to then be validated against these actual constructs of why it is that you choose to be a certain way or not. Some things that you can have and attain require certainty, and of being somewhere lesser than what great expectations may have for you includes its own need for mutuality and reciprocity, as long as cooperation is what it is that defines your values by default. So all of that aside, I'm going to try and put something together here for this person whom I'm doing this about. Because this is not my first attempt to maintain a good relationship, no matter what the crazy is or amounts to. I've had some bitter denials on an essence of an immature stance and standpoint for non-adaptive partners to work with me in my life. And it's resulted in a lot of heartache. So I'm not interested in dating anyone or looking for other partners, especially because I found someone that I like so much, and that's an important thing to me. And I most certainly don't feel like them explaining to me that they found a partner that they like so much, so they're gonna go do something. Most notably because in my will of choice and my choice of being, I have no troubles with motivation and dedication. It's something I've always been. I cannot emotionally tolerate that it's going to be misplaced again because of what has already been interacted with and exchanged. So with all of that being slated here, I have written a few things already, and with a basis and familiarity of this language of his, whether he knows it or not, is no concern. I have a familiarity and home standing tones with family also from Alaska, that I see it as a capacity of second nature, first-handedly, to do this, and then also get a couple of my issues knocked out without a therapist or someone recommending telling my stories to someone else, or worse yet, to all the other people whom I've met who have tried taking the advantage of me and then away from my direct voice, say-so, intentions, and basis of character. That some things aren't what I'm doing with others, neither is it an option. And I do not have the stomach for this person who has chosen to remind me that they decided dating someone else after I have otherwise been raped by them, if that's their concurrent standpoint. I'm not okay with that because I'd like to take it seriously. And I'm not a type of personality for you to look at like a bland sack of books, law books, or a stack of flour. You have to understand that once you get serious with me, I'm a good person in your life. And I don't want to play games unless it's video games for the next 10 years binge. And that is honestly how I see it. So I am going to put forward this effort. Although I'm repeating myself, because they need to place me in the correct values of what I deserve also, concurrently with what I believe they deserve, because that's how I am. And I don't want to hear that from some other female partner of theirs. There's only so much a person can do, but I'm not the all-fraying mind of others. So, to adieu. I am also going to keep an Instagram page with all the other things included in stuff that I'm doing with this aspect of my dedications. Thank you.